Willpower, that invisible force we all think we understand. But what if everything we believe about self control is based on outdated science from the 1960s? The latest research reveals some shocking truths about how willpower actually works in our brains.
That's such a fascinating perspective, especially since willpower impacts literally every decision we make, from the smallest daily choices to life-changing decisions.
You know what really blows my mind? The research showing that willpower development starts at just 3 months old. These tiny humans are literally building their self control through simple actions like reaching and grasping.
That's so much earlier than most people would guess. How does that early development actually work?
Well, it's like watching a willpower factory in action. Between 12 and 18 months, these toddlers start developing the ability to follow commands and control their behavior. By age 3, they're already grasping complex concepts like cause and effect relationships.
That reminds me of that famous Stanford marshmallow experiment. You know, the one that predicted future success based on a child's ability to resist eating a marshmallow.
Exactly right. And here's what's fascinating about that study. The researchers found that children who could delay gratification at age 4 were significantly more likely to have higher SAT scores and better social skills as teenagers. But, and this is crucial, recent studies have shown it's not just about innate ability.
Oh, you mean how environmental factors play a huge role in developing willpower?
Precisely. The latest research shows that children from families with lower socioeconomic status often appear to have less willpower, but it's actually because they're making more rational decisions based on their environment. If you've grown up in an unstable environment, taking the immediate reward often makes more sense.
That's such an important distinction. It really challenges our assumptions about willpower being purely a personal characteristic.
And here's another mind bending finding. Willpower actually operates like a muscle. It can be strengthened through training, but it also gets fatigued with use. Studies show we have about 15 minutes of peak willpower for any given task.
Well, that explains why it's so hard to resist those afternoon snacks after a morning of difficult decisions.
Exactly. And speaking of decision fatigue, studies show that judges are significantly more likely to grant parole in the morning or right after their lunch break. By late afternoon, the approval rate drops to almost zero.
That's honestly terrifying. So what can people actually do to strengthen their willpower?
The research points to 3 key strategies. First, start incredibly small. We're talking tiny changes like making your bed every morning. Second, leverage what's called implementation intentions, specific if-then plans for handling challenges. And third, focus on environment design rather than pure willpower.
Could you explain more about that environment design concept?
Think about it this way. Studies show that people who successfully maintain healthy habits aren't necessarily stronger willed. They're just better at avoiding temptation in the first place. Like instead of trying to resist the cookies in your pantry, don't buy them at all.
That makes so much sense. It's like setting yourself up for success instead of constantly testing your willpower.
Right. And here's something fascinating about sleep's role in all this. Research shows that just one night of poor sleep can reduce your willpower to the same level as being legally drunk.
Well, that certainly explains some of my late night online shopping decisions.
You know what's really interesting? The latest neuroscience shows that willpower isn't actually a finite resource like we once thought. It's more like a muscle that gets temporarily fatigued but can be strengthened over time.
So how long does it typically take to build stronger willpower?
Studies suggest it takes about 66 days to form a new habit. Not the 21 days we often hear about. But here's the key. Consistency matters more than perfection. Missing one day doesn't significantly impact habit formation.
That's actually really encouraging. It takes some of the pressure off trying to be perfect all the time.
And here's my favorite recent finding. Practicing mindfulness for just 8 weeks can actually increase the density of gray matter in the prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain responsible for willpower and decision making.
That's incredible that we can literally change our brain structure through practice.
Looking ahead, I think we're going to see some revolutionary changes in how we approach willpower development, especially with new technologies that can help us track and strengthen our self control in real time.
That's such a hopeful note to end on. The idea that we can all build stronger willpower regardless of where we start.
Exactly. It's not about having iron discipline or perfect self control. It's about understanding how willpower really works and using that knowledge to make sustainable changes in our lives.